This is Visitor's Book, and I'm Maija, your host. In this program, we're going to be meeting with diplomats and foreigners who are here in Pakistan, and we're going to find out what they really think about the country. Let's go. So today we are at the office of Ignacio Artaza, the acting resident representative of the UNDP. So let's go meet with him. Hello.
Hello, Maija. Welcome to UNDP.
Thank you so much. So nice to see you. Thank you. So, when did you first get to Pakistan?
I arrived in Pakistan in October of 2016, so
okay.
soon 3 years.
Wow, okay. And where were you posted before that?
Before coming to Pakistan, I was in Cairo, in Egypt, for 4 years.
Okay.
Fascinating times.
Yeah?
Also.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. So you've worked in so many different countries and for a lot of different organizations as well. How did you first get into the UNDP system?
I joined the UN in 1999.
Okay, wow.
In Jerusalem, actually, working in also for UNDP in the Palestinian territories.
Oh, wow.
And before that, I had worked for a humanitarian organization, Médecins Sans Frontières, in Mozambique, in Kurdistan, Iran, and later on in Ecuador. So 3 different continents before I joined the UN.
Okay, that's amazing. And so how would you compare like your experience in all those different countries to Pakistan? Like, has there been anything that really stands out about the country for you?
I think every country has its own issues and its own flavor, of course. I think all of them enrich you in one way or the other, give you more experience, and you learn something in every country. Yeah. So I think as we grow older and we have gray hair or less hair, we have more experience and we are able to bring back more to the country where we are serving. And this is how I feel about being in Pakistan now, because in some ways Pakistan is not too different from other countries in terms of development challenges, which is what we do here as UNDP. And I think those experiences that I have from other countries are very useful in the work that I do here today.
Great, amazing. So for those of you who don't know, what does UNDP exactly do? What sets it apart from other UN organizations?
So UNDP stands for the United Nations Development Programme. It is the largest UN entity providing sustainable development technical assistance to host countries or member states where we operate. We are present in about 150 countries. And basically we work in a range of areas, but more relevant to Pakistan, we are working, I would say, on 4 key sectors or areas. One being governance, and of course governance is a big word, but it includes topics related to rule of law and policing, elections, local government, human rights, and so on and so forth, working with parliaments and so on. Yeah. Then adaptation to climate change and environmental protection, and in Pakistan we have a very large program given the challenges that Pakistan faces in terms of climate change. It is the 7th most vulnerable country to climate change. We also work on what I would call community resilience, but basically it involves working with young people, providing them skills and economic opportunities.
Okay, great.
In areas that have been affected by insecurity or are otherwise marginalized. And then fourthly, we work on what we call development policy research and analysis, which is all the work we do in terms of national human development reports, multidimensional poverty indices, and other such publications that are produced for policymakers, decision makers to be used for advancing the development dialogue, discourse, and so on.
Okay.
So that's in a nutshell what we do in Pakistan, but of course, we can get into details if you want.
Yeah. So I read that you are working on ecotourism projects in Pakistan. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Certainly. We're working at 2 levels. On the one hand, we are working with the government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa to promote ecotourism by procuring and installing camping pods And these are being set up in some iconic valleys.
Oh, wow.
So that we can develop the local economy, make these sites available for tourists, but most importantly, or equally importantly, to do so in a manner that it is sustainable. Making sure that that the community is involved, that there is no garbage left behind, that the right systems are put in place to manage influx of tourists and all the things that go with it, so that it is done in a eco-friendly manner. Then we are also working centrally with the Pakistan Tourism Board to provide technical assistance to, for instance, review the PTDC, which is a state entity, but basically it's a change management exercise to see how it can operate differently in a manner that it is more sustainable and it provides better services and obviously generates income. So that's something we have started recently with the Pakistan Tourism Board as well.
That's very interesting. So it's a recent thing that you started. So when do you think this whole thing will be up and running, like these villages that you're setting up?
So these are, some have already been installed.
Oh, okay.
In KP. The remainder will be installed within now at the end of the year, more or less. We would like to scale up this support to other parts of the country. In particular, I'm thinking of Pakistan, given the potential and given the positive experience that we have with the current work in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. We would love to be among the first ones to go and visit these sites, because the places are indeed iconic in terms of the biodiversity, richness of some of these valleys in KP is spectacular, and it would be great for tourists to be able to visit these beautiful sites, but in a responsible manner.
Of course.
And this is something that, of course, we are working with the KP government to make sure that whatever tourism is being promoted is responsible tourism, respecting the environment, managing waste and so on and so forth in a manner that it is not affected by this influx of new people coming to these parts.
That's very important. So you mentioned that this whole project aims to create more jobs for locals. What kind of jobs could, like, women, for example, get in this kind of a field?
I'm glad you asked this question, because women is actually one of our main targets of this program. We're working on providing skills, particularly for young people, young Pakistani men and women, in the hospitality industry, which is quite broad, because there's hospitality, there's the restoration, there's tourism guiding, and so on and so forth. There's the cultural aspect as well. There's the music dimension as well. So there's many opportunities for people from these communities to be provided with the skills, so that then they can contribute to the local economy, of course, and earn an income for themselves, but also entertain the tourists with quality services, which at the end of the day, this is what government of KP wants, and we also want, is to make sure that it is a very positive experience for tourists going to this area, to experience something that's unique to the valley, that benefits the valley, because the people from these valleys are the ones that are being trained and will be, provide the opportunity to work in these facilities. So that's the aim, and indeed, I mean, women being 50% of the population, we cannot ignore the role that they play in the economy, but also in the development of these valleys and villages as well.
Yeah, great. So would this project be targeting more like Pakistani tourists or international tourists as well?
We are helping providing technical assistance to the government of KP. I don't think that we are limited in that sense. But I think that the biggest potential, obviously, for Pakistan and for tourism to be sustainable in the long term, if it is fed from, or within the country itself,
absolutely.
That would make it more sustainable over the long term. But of course, the government itself is now opening up Pakistan for business and tourism in particular. So it would be great to see foreigners go to these valleys in KP explore the beautiful forests, mountains, rivers that KP has to offer.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have this project called Kamyab Jawan, which targets youth in different areas of the country. What do you do specifically?
This is actually a flagship initiative for UNDP, as 2/3 of the population are roughly below the age of 29.
Oh, okay.
And youth unemployment is almost double that of regular unemployment.
Wow.
It is very important that we focus on youth, young Pakistani men and women. Yeah. Our program, Kamyab Jawan, which has now been adopted also by the government, and we are working very closely with the Special Advisor to the Prime Minister on Youth, Mr. Usman Dar, to scale up the support we are providing to youth in terms of skills development. So these different kinds of vocational training skills to enhance their employability potential, but also their business startup potential.
Okay, great.
And then supporting startup enterprises, working with social entrepreneurs, working with incubators, working with, for example, the industry as well, like the textile industry in Karachi and others, to provide placement, to provide jobs, basically, employment, to those youth that go through the training programs. For example, in Karachi alone, since I mentioned, we are working with several textile companies. About 14,000 youth have been trained.
Wow.
And by now about 11,000 have been employed by the textile industry.
Oh, that's amazing.
We are now expanding this to other sectors like the automotive, transport sector and so on. But I think that this is a very good model because Pakistani youth is, as you know, very dynamic, vibrant, energetic. They want to be part of developing the country, but they need to be provided with the right opportunities. And providing them with training that is adapted to what the industry demands is essential for them to either be employed or be encouraged to start up their own business.
Great. So another area that you work on is floods as related to climate change, particularly in Gilgit-Baltistan, is that correct?
Yes, we work in all of Gilgit-Baltistan and the 5 northern districts of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa.
Okay.
The aim here is to reduce the hazard or the impact of melting glaciers due to climate change on people, economic infrastructure, and so on and so forth. What is happening is that because of rising temperatures, the glaciers are melting. Yeah. There's lakes that are formed inside the glaciers, and due to tectonic movements or rising temperatures and so on, the barrier within the glacier that holds these glaciers can burst.
Okay.
And then that creates a massive flood. It's a surge of water, mud, debris, everything that is along the right. downstream way of the glacier, the river, and basically the damages whatever is found downstream, and the results are catastrophic in terms of people's lives, housing, property, transport infrastructure, agricultural land, you name it. Now, we cannot prevent the forces of nature to do what they do, but we can prevent damage on humans and property, infrastructure, and so on. So what do? We are installing sensors and gauges, these early warning systems, basically, both in the glaciers and in the downstream discharge areas to monitor the activity. We are working with communities to establish an early warning system so that people in those areas can be forewarned if there's a risk of a glacier bursting. We are, through reforestation, stabilizing the slopes, and then we are also working with communities to provide them alternative livelihood opportunities to encourage them to get out of harm's way, potential harm's way.
Yeah.
This is a very large program because Pakistan has about 3,000 glaciers, of which 33 are considered to be at risk at the moment. So you can imagine the number of people that can be affected. It's estimated that about 38 million people could be potentially affected by the existing risk. So it involves a lot of work together with the local authorities, central, federal Ministry of Climate Change, provincial authorities, meteorological department, national disaster management authorities, and so on and so forth, to make sure that all the efforts are synchronized and damage can be prevented, or at least the impact of the damage can be reduced.
Yeah, okay. Time to take a short break. See you in a bit. Welcome back. We're here in conversation with Ignacio Artaza from the UNDP. So the Sustainable Development Goals have been discussed quite a bit in the media all over the world. How is Pakistan doing in terms of that?
Well, in terms of poverty reduction, let me start with that. Pakistan has been doing rather well over the past few years. If you look at income poverty, which stands at about 29%, down from, quite significantly from the past couple of decades. However, if you look at it from a multidimensional poverty perspective, it stands at about 38+%. There is obviously quite some room for improvement.
Yeah.
Now, what is multidimensional poverty? As opposed to the typical gross GDP per capita income, multidimensional poverty looks at other dimensions, such as education, health, and standards of living, that give you more granularity and a better understanding as to why people are poor and where, because the data goes down to the district level. So, for example, in Pakistan, what we can say is that there's parts of Punjab that are as developed as some European countries, but then there are parts of Balochistan, erstwhile Fatah, and so on, that their standards are comparable to some sub-Saharan countries. The Sustainable Development Goals approach is an excellent tool, I should say, to identify which are the priority areas down by district, down at the district level, identify which are the targets that can be achieved, allocate state resources, and then have the relevant data to monitor progress, so that, it sounds very, methodologically it's very simple. Of course, it's very different when it comes to actually achieving it, but at least it provides a very valuable tool to make sure that state government action can be directed and resources allocated to improve indicators in specific areas. And this is not only about poverty, although poverty is probably one of the key indicators, but it's also about environmental aspects. It's also about access to services. It's also about all these kind of different things that have eventually an impact on the status of development of different areas.
Sure. So what do you think are the issues that are not receiving maybe enough attention in the Pakistani media at the moment?
Well, I think media has a very useful role to play in talking about issues that affect or that concern development. A, for policymakers, two, for development actors, but thirdly, and probably as important, for the public at large, because I think that responsible citizens become responsible if they understand what the key, what the problems that affect their fellow citizens are like, and how they can also play a role in improving things in general. For example, the Billion Tree Tsunami Program, which has been very much talked about, and it's a model of Pakistan leading the way in combating climate change. I think the media has definitely a role to play in portraying how this is positively affecting or impacting communities, but also contributing to a greener environment. And the more this is talked about, the more people will feel the need to engage And as we have spoken earlier, Pakistani youth are very keen to engage if provided the opportunity.
Yeah.
So media definitely has a role to play in this regard.
Great. So Pakistan has been facing a lot of problems with power cuts in the past. Now maybe it has gotten a little bit better. UNDP focuses on clean, affordable energy. How can this help Pakistan solve the energy problem?
Well, there's obviously major infrastructure works that are being done, and those are not within the remit of UNDP. We work more at the community level,
right?
Looking for homegrown, locally developed, low-cost, typically, solutions. And these refer to solar energy, microhydel, and such type of solutions that typically are very useful in such a rugged terrain as you find in some parts of Pakistan, which is off the grid.
Yeah.
So this is what we are promoting, and Pakistan has a tremendous potential, particularly in parts of the country like Balochistan and so on, because of the remoteness, but also because of the hours of sunlight. You basically just need to download the sun as you have the technology. So this is what we are providing technical assistance for, and what we are promoting. Now, let me just picking on this. When you consider that overseas development assistance, so ODA, right, for the country, is not more than 1% of gross national income, you also need to realize that aid or development organizations are not going to provide for all the solutions or needs of the country.
Yeah.
It's only 1%. So our role is more catalytic in terms of bringing in technical expertise and know-how, but the actual investments need to be found domestically.
Yeah,
and when I say domestically, it is not only the state, but it is also the private sector, because this is how you can then finance the scaling up of these renewable energy solutions.
Exactly.
Let me give you one example, which is not necessarily related to energy, but it's illustrative of this fact. In Islamabad, we are working with a municipal corporation to improve the management of water. Okay. As we know, water is an issue.
Yeah.
Scarcity of water is an issue in Islamabad, in Pakistan in general. So together with the municipality of Islamabad, private sector, some local social actors and so on, we have started to install in the car wash stations locally devised, using locally available technology, locally manufactured system of recycling the water that is used in car wash stations that is otherwise wasted. Okay. So by now, 70 to 80% of the water is put back into circulation, into the system, and this is how we are managing to improve the conservation of water. Why I mentioned this example? Because it is a very good example of private-public partnership, where we play a catalytic role in terms of facilitating this partnership and the provision of the solution, but then it is scaled up through local domestic resources, private sector, local government. We are now doing the same, and we have started to have several car wash stations implement the same model in Quetta and in Lahore. So hopefully we will see this mushrooming across the country, and it's one way through simple means to address the issue of water scarcity.
That's amazing. Great. So you also do some work on mountain ecosystems and wildlife conservation. What do you focus on in terms of that exactly?
I'm glad you asked this question, because this is something very close to my heart, since I also come from a mountain area.
Ah, excellent.
But we work on biodiversity conservation.
Yeah.
So basically enhancing, improving the management of protected areas. For example, Central Karakorum National Park, the Osai National Park, working with the rangers, with the local authorities, the Gilgit-Baltistan government and so on, and civil society, of course, to make sure that the protected area, the park itself, has the means to better be managed, so that we are able to prevent encroachment, we are able to direct tourists to areas where wildlife will not be affected, and so on, and generate revenue, of course, as it is done elsewhere in the world.
So that's very interesting, and I think this could be something of interest for tourists coming into the country, because, for example, in Nepal, people always go and try to see the tiger. Maybe here it could be the snow leopard, right?
Indeed, and the potential is tremendous, but for that we need to work with communities, because communities and shepherds in particular are the first ones that would be affected by the evolving, changing behavior of snow leopards, for instance, as their habitats are being eroded or encroached. Then, of course, they would look for food elsewhere. Absolutely. And of course, cattle is a particular target. Yeah. So, working with communities to make them understand the value of this iconic animal, so that they are the first proponents or first defenders of their protection, by linking it with tourism, so that it can generate revenue for the community, and therefore the community is the first one who is interested to protect that source of revenue. Yeah. I mean, this is a model that is being done elsewhere in the world, in protected areas and so on. So in that sense, Pakistan, being at the crux of the Karakoram, Hindu Kush and Himalayan mountain ranges, is blessed with spectacular landscapes, mountains and wildlife. Yeah. And investing in that will obviously pay back, not only in terms of preserving our natural heritage, but also in generating a source of revenue for the local communities. Absolutely.
Have you ever gotten the chance to see the snow leopard here?
Unfortunately, only on videos.
Okay.
It's very difficult.
Yes.
We are working on the protection of the snow leopard, and one of the activities that we are doing is the installation of camera traps. It's a very elusive animal, as you can imagine, so it can only be filmed by placing camera traps in areas where we know that they are bound to go for feeding or water holes and so on.
So recently Pakistan has been trying to ban the use of plastic bags, also in Islamabad. How effective do you think this is going to be in the country? Like, is it going to have a big impact in general?
Well, I think this is a wonderful initiative.
Yeah.
And some countries have done it successfully. Some countries have started with declarations, with the intention to do that. I think it's great that Pakistan has embarked in this path. I believe Gilgit has already declared that it would be plastic-free. But at the end of the day, obviously, for this to succeed, it needs much more than just saying we are plastic-free. Yeah. You need to work with the industry, you need to work with the shopkeepers, you need to provide alternative means of, for example, for the plastic bags that we get in the shops. So you need to provide alternatives to that, and you need to raise awareness of both the shopkeepers and the people that go and buy and so on. So, and thirdly, I would say you need to regulate it and you need to enforce it. There needs to be a form of punishment, so to speak. I mean, that would be ideally people would do it out of their own will and understanding, but at the end of the day, there has to be an element of that as well. So I think that if you have these three different elements in place, I think then the chances of succeeding are there, and this is what we have learned from some countries where they have already implemented this.
Yeah. And recycling, at least I've found recycling to be quite challenging in Pakistan. What can regular people do about these issues? What would you recommend in Pakistan?
Well, I think first and foremost, people need to be aware. We need to be conscious of what we are doing when we are consuming plastic. I think this is the first thing, because otherwise it's pointless to continuously tell people don't use this. You have to provide them an alternative, and they have to understand what is the impact of the use of plastic. For example, in other countries within this region, UNDP has partnered with some private sector bottling companies to recycle back all the plastic that is being used, and gradually remove the usage of plastic cups and other such materials that are being used in the fast food industry. Again, this requires partnership between the local municipality, and private industry, typically the hospitality industry, but also the bottling industry. And if it is well designed and understood, it makes economic sense. At the end of the day, it needs to make economic sense for private sector to invest in transforming, some of its business processes. And once this is demonstrated, and believe me, it can be demonstrated because it's been done in many parts of the world, then of course people will gradually start changing behaviors, and we will be used to using other things than plastic for our, day-to-day consumption of whatever we buy. Is it, bottled soft drinks or coffee or tea or food?
Yeah, great.
Maija, would you like to take a short break? Let me show you the office around and we can have some tea.
Excellent, sounds perfect.
Let's go.
Okay, time to take a short break. See you in a bit. Let's go. Welcome back from the break. We're here in conversation with Ignacio Artaza from the UNDP. So what is this area?
So this is our open space office. You can see our communications team and our innovation team and our front desk executive support areas in this space.
Yeah.
And then behind we have our program and operations administration teams working. Would you care to have some
Sure.
coffee and biscuits or sandwich?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. So through your job, you must have gotten to travel quite a bit in Pakistan. Is that correct?
That's true. And I am very lucky, I have to say, because my job requires that I go and see the work that we're doing in different parts of the country.
Yeah.
And in this regard, I must say that Pakistan is a beautiful country. From the mountain ranges in the north to the desert and the plains in the south, and the barren lands in the west, and the Indus in the middle. It's fascinating for someone who likes to travel and meet people, and I must say I'm very lucky to be here.
Excellent. So what has been your favorite trip so far?
Well, I think I am biased. I have come to enjoy every single bit of Pakistan I have seen. But as I come from a mountain area myself, I am particularly keen on the northern areas of Pakistan.
Okay.
The Hindu Kush, Karakoram, Himalayan ranges. So the northern districts, Gilgit-Baltistan, but also northern KP. I feel at home, and the landscapes are beautiful. The mountains are majestic. The cultures are very different. And this is one of the particular things about Pakistan, that it is so diverse.
Exactly.
And then for someone who's here for a couple of years to be able to experience so much in that limited time frame, it's very rich. It's a wonderful experience.
Absolutely. Is there anything that you found quite surprising when you went to all these different areas of Pakistan?
Well, I think probably the diversity that I just referred to. I didn't anticipate that Pakistan would be such a diverse country when I first came. Diverse in terms of landscapes, but also in terms of culture, in terms of people, in terms of languages.
Exactly.
In terms of rural versus urban. So fascinating. I mean, there's no day when I do not come across something new or something that resonates in my head, and okay, I need to explore this more.
Is there anywhere that you haven't been yet that you would like to go still?
Parts of Punjab I have not been to. Otherwise, I have been to almost, I've been to some districts in Balochistan, not all of them. I have not been to Gwadar, but I have been to Tharparkar in Sindh. Of course, the major cities as well. Yeah. And then, many of the districts in KP, Gilgit-Baltistan, several of the agencies in ex-Fata as well. Okay. South Waziristan, Khyber, Kurram, and so on. So, I mean, for someone who's an explorer at heart, there's no lack of willingness to go out and explore.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And I look forward to discovering those places where I have not been and to go back to those where I have already been.
Yeah, great. So how have you found Pakistan as a country to live in? Has it been easy, or have there been some challenges for you here?
I think it has been very easy. Okay. And although it is not the same, but there are some similarities. Having spent more than 10 years in the Middle East, so the culture is somewhat comparable.
Of course, yeah.
there's also many Pakistanis in the Middle East, so I've been exposed to many Pakistanis abroad. So I thought it was very easy to adjust, and particularly in Islamabad, which is such an easy city to live in.
Yeah.
I think I had a very soft and easy landing when I came.
Okay. In what respect?
Well, in the sense that I think it's very easy to live here. Pakistanis are, of course, very friendly and willing to help for when someone comes new for the first time in this country. And also in terms of the opportunities to do things, I found Islamabad quite to my liking in that sense.
Great. Yeah, so you are quite active in your free time, I think you mentioned. So what do you like to do here?
I think my main activity during my free time is for sure being out there in the Margala Hills.
Okay.
I am a frequent hiker. And
which trail?
I cannot tell you because I go off trail.
Okay.
So I consider the Margala Hills my backyard by now. No, I usually start off in one of the trails, but then soon after there's a little bit of a suspicious trail going wherever you don't know where it's leading. There I would go.
Okay.
And this is how one discovers new parts of the hills, and this is how I've also seen whether it's the barking deer going further high in the mountains. You've seen the Himalayan steppe eagle. So yes, there's a lot of wildlife in the Margala Hills, but one needs to go off trail to be able to discover it, and also some water holes in some parts, particularly now during the monsoon season.
Okay. Very interesting. So I should definitely venture out there more.
Definitely.
Sounds very interesting. How do you think that trails have been maintained? Do you find like a lot of garbage there, or is it relatively clean?
One thing that would be nice is to have better signage, particularly the entrance of the various trails, so maps available also for those that venture out. And perhaps are less adventurous and don't mind getting lost. But otherwise, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Do you always hike like all the way to the top to the Monal restaurant and so on?
That is a hike that I and a group of friends do every once in a while.
Yeah.
So would start here in the city and end up having breakfast in Monal and then come down. But otherwise, we would typically we avoid the trails and we would just get lost elsewhere.
Amazing.
Go as far as the second ridge. We've walked also to Khanpur Lake from Islamabad.
Seriously, wow.
Down all the way down to the Murray foothills, then back to Islamabad. I mean, these are 7, 8, 9 hour-long hikes. Yeah. So every once in a while, yes, we do that.
Wow. How would you describe Pakistanis as people? Like, what would you say is special about Pakistanis?
I think Pakistanis are very cheerful, also very hospitable.
Yeah.
Very welcoming to foreigners, very much willing to show what Pakistan is about. And Pakistani food, that's another chapter on its own.
Yeah.
But that as well. And because it's such a rich country, there's so much that Pakistanis can offer. And as a tourist, not in my case, but as an outsider coming to live in Pakistan, I mean, it's great to feel so welcome, and it's great to be able to experience firsthand many things that regular tourists don't experience.
Exactly.
Because of my work, I've been to a Pakistani wedding. I've been to many other places that regular tourists wouldn't go to, and I find that extremely rewarding.
Yeah, amazing. You are obviously from Spain, so have you noticed any interesting similarities between the people or the cultures? Is there anything, or are they totally different?
Well, unfortunately, it is not cricket, because in Spain we don't play cricket. But I would say one commonality, and maybe this actually, one could say this about many countries in the world, but it's love of food and love of your own food from your own country. Where I come from in Spain, it's considered to be the gastronomic capital of Spain. So it's a whole culture about food in that part of the world. But I've noticed that Pakistanis are equally proud and equally boastful about their food and willingness to show it to others.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I'm not very keen on spicy food, and I am rather frugal in my habits, and I don't eat sweets. I don't have a sweet tooth, so I must confess that maybe I have not done justice to my hosts.
Okay.
But I am very curious, so I have tasted everything, and it's of course very rich and also very diverse from different parts of the country. Even when the food may be the same, the product may be the same, it is cooked differently, different levels of spices and so on. So that's also very interesting.
Yeah, excellent. So, what would you say has been the most rewarding experience for you in Pakistan so far?
Well, I would say there's two things probably. One is to work within a team that's very strong and that's committed and that is willing to make a difference for the better of Pakistan. That makes my day-to-day life easier because I can rely on a strong team. And secondly, I would say going to the mountain areas in the north because the landscapes are so spectacular, makes one feel small, but also admire the beauty of the towering peaks and also the very diverse cultures that are present. Baltistan, Gilgit, Chitral. That's a unique experience that I would probably have not gone through it if it weren't for my job. So I must say I'm very fortunate.
Yeah,
in that
exactly.
sense.
So how long are you planning on staying still?
Typically, our posting is between 3-4 years. So I'm just going to complete my 3rd year. So I hope to be able to stay a 4th year.
Yeah.
I feel there is a lot to be done still. I still feel I have a lot of energy to contribute in this country, and also because I find the country fascinating. So there's still a lot more to explore. Whenever you open one door, 2 more open behind it. So there's never an end to it.
Wonderful, great. So now it's time for the rapid fire round. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, great. Shalwar kameez or suit?
I would prefer shalwar kameez. However, I think my expectation is to wear a suit.
Okay. Lahore or Karachi?
Difficult question. Both.
Kagan or Hunza?
Equally difficult. Both.
Biryani or paella?
If I say paella, it's not going to be politically correct. So I have to say biryani.
You can also say both. Okay. Alhambra or Lahore Fort?
Lahore Fort. I've seen Alhambra too many times.
Okay. Tapas or pakoras?
Sorry, I am biased. Tapas.
Okay, fair enough. Sierra Nevada or Nanga Parbat?
Nanga Parbat, no doubt.
Islamabad or Madrid?
Islamabad.
Hiking or boating?
Hiking.
Bookworm or traveler?
Traveler with books.
Ah, interesting. Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Mountains or beach?
Mountains.
Yeah, I figured that. Cricket or football?
Football.
Messi or Ronaldo?
Neither.
Okay. The best thing about Pakistan?
Pakistani people.
Great. That's it. So we've finally reached the part of the program where I always ask my guests to sign our visitor's book. So here you go.
With pleasure.
Okay.
There you go.
Great. Thank you. Okay, let's see what you wrote. Dear Maija and team, thank you for inviting me to your program. It has been a pleasure to talk about development issues, the work of UNDP, and my own experience in this beautiful country. All the best. Thank you so much. It has been indeed a wonderful day, and thank you so much for having me here, and I hope you continue to have a wonderful time in Pakistan.
Thank you very much, Maija.
Thank
the pleasure
you.
is mine. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it for today. Please join me again next week. Goodbye.